When we stop playing small, we allow ourselves to get this overflow of us. We allow ourselves to call in bigger and better for ourselves all the time. Many times why we feel that we sometimes can attract or call in what we want, if it is a certain type of job, a relationship, if it is a certain type of understanding from within, if we want to be less doubtful, if we want to worry less and so forth, we call that in and then it slip away. We call a little bit of that in and then it slip away. Sometimes it can be because of that we play small, that we have created this type of understanding of that things should be average, that things should be in between. I hear that often from many people, and I know that I've been in that type of mentality myself, that we sometimes ask ourselves that, okay, is this relationship really good for me? I mean, we have fun together, right? We laugh together. At least we will laugh together. Even though we have a couple of fights, we fight quite often, but at least we have fun together. So isn't that how all relationships are? And that's the same for kind of jobs. I hear, and especially when I worked in corporate from before, people on daily basis saying that, well, don't all hate their job once in a while? Like, isn't it that how it's supposed to be? And according to me, that is not how it's supposed to be. And that is just a tendency, a behavior that we have learned, that we have been taught to play small. And we've been taught to holding ourselves back, not reaching our fullest potential by saying that, yeah, sometimes I like my job, sometimes I don't, but that's a little bit of the nature of life, so to say. I want us to talk about, this feeling of that we sit on a true potential on ourselves, that we sit on a great potential, but we are not able to really pour it out. We're not really able to really explore it all, because in one way or another we keep on having certain type of fears that makes us hold ourselves back. We have learned this type of behavior of putting others first, that others should go first, their happiness or their joy is more important. It might be that we have been in this kind of safe zone where we felt in many different ways that when we've been at our genius, that haven't been safe for us. So that's why we're playing safe, by keeping ourselves small, by not shining our genius, not shining our light. So there are different type of ways why we have kept ourselves small, and this is a process in our unlayering, in understanding ourselves and why we do things as we do, in the ways that it doesn't help us and it doesn't make us happier. We don't live up the fullest life which we can live. Also, another thing why we settle sometimes might actually be because we don't have the experience of it. So for me, I noticed that sometimes I didn't have the experience of it because I've been so used to this kind of ambivalence in my life in general, from relationships, from how I grew up, from everything. So I constantly play this story and have this experience over and over again of that things can be really good and then it can be really bad and then it can be a little bit good again and then it can be bad, and it goes back and forth with everything, like with both of how I feel from within, from my fulfillment, how I see life in that way, but also how I can have great relationships that feels good for a little while, then it doesn't feel good after a while, jobs that feels like yeah, maybe I'm on my way now, and then it doesn't feel like that any longer, right? So being in this kind of ambivalence of back and forth, having a calm and peaceful family dinner, whereas after a little while it's not that calm and peaceful any longer, right? So there is this kind of ambivalence and this kind of up and down, which many of us have been experiencing. And because of that, we don't know another type of story. We don't have the experience of that things can just be great. Things can just be good. A while back when I was dating, I noticed that I wanted I wanted my partner. I wanted a life partner. I started to realize and see a pattern in all the guys that I was dating and have been dating through my adulthood, that it didn't, like, something wasn't really like adding up. Why were these kind of relationships ending, and why didn't these relationships continue, so to say. So I started to see a pattern in all these guys where they actually weren't mature enough, like emotionally mature. They didn't have this kind of emotional maturity. They had like different type of fears. They were afraid of their emotions. They couldn't they couldn't explain their emotions. They couldn't understand their triggers. They just got triggered and couldn't see how they got triggered and so forth. And whereas I saw that that was also a reflection of me, and that I needed to do a grander inner job, inner growth myself. And whereas I saw that, okay, I may be like attracting this kind of on and off in a certain type of relationship, even though our relationship wasn't on and off, but it was like the relationship itself, so to say, like we were together or whatever it was, but this kind of how we feel in the relationship was really on and off, not stable. So I started to reflect on that very deeply and felt that I wanted something different. I wanted something else. There must be something else there. And even though I didn't have the experience or the kind of role models for it, I started to do a lot of inner growth in regards to what I wanted. I started to write down exactly what I wanted and what I thought was possible for me. Like I asked myself, and I asked my higher self, and I asked my guides to help me to see beyond what I see today. And also, if it was something that it couldn't imagine, I could get even better than I could imagine. So I always said to myself, like, I want better, I want better, I want better than I can ever imagine that I can have in regards to our relationship. So one of the things was that I wanted a relationship where it was quite awkward that we were fighting, that it felt like weird when we were fighting. And that was something that was so new for me. I kind of believe it, kind of not, but I did all this kind of inner growth in terms of changing those beliefs and getting more and more closer to that is what I could have. And if I couldn't have that, I would be better off myself. That was kind of the conclusion I had. Like, I want a great relationship, or else I don't need to be in one. Actually, I love my own company. I can be with myself in that case. So now ranting a little bit about that, but just for you to understand. Another pattern which I saw in these dating histories, so to say, was that I always felt that I was not chosen. I always felt that I was second best, so to say. Like, they didn't prioritize me. In one way or another, they didn't prioritize our relationship. They prioritized something else before, and it was like this kind of immaturity once again. And that made me reflect on myself and made me reflect on, are there parts in my life where I am actually not prioritizing me? And started to see a bunch of different things where I was not prioritizing me. So during a time where I created a lot of space for me and investing in myself, I realized that, for instance, I started my days with prioritizing someone else. I prioritized to get ready for work, not to prioritize getting more harmony or feeling working with my nervous system or feeling content or connecting with my fulfillment, right? Because those were the things that I needed to do at that point, right? But I didn't. Like, I paid attention to, okay, now waking up, I need to go doing this and that and this and that and get ready for work. And this is something which, when talking with others, I understood that that is also the case for many others as well. There are more and more that is waking up to that, yeah, creating a better routine for yourself and creating mornings for yourself and starting with you is actually something which we all should do. There is so much more people that is waking up to that. And I guess that if you are at this channel, you're also waking up to that, or you have your routine where you're taking care of yourself and so forth, which is so great. But back that time, I noticed, I will come into why this is important now. So back that time, I noticed that I've been like not prioritizing those things. So I started to recognize all the different type of patterns when I haven't actually prioritized me, that I prioritize something else. I prioritize running and getting stressed just to catch a train or whatever it might be, right? And I started to see how I always was in constant kind of doing something for something else and not doing something for me and my internal self. Fast forwarding, when I started to see these kind of more so visible signs of that I was not taking myself as the priority. I didn't prioritize myself, so to say. And then it became a little bit more unconscious. Then the other parts became a little bit more not so visible any longer, because the first things and something which was talked about, or that I got like this kind of realization, and then I kind of let it go a little bit almost. After a while, I started to realize that, wow, things are not so flowing into my life. Things are not giving so much into my life. Why is that? I get things happen to me, I attract things to my life, but I get it in very small portions, or they slip away. After a while, I get it, and then it slip away. It seemed to that I find a really great friend, and then it seems like that isn't really like the relationship I want. Or it seems like I'm starting to have a very great period when I feel happy, when I feel content, and then in the week after it slips out again, right? So I realized that, wow, what is this? What is this about? And I actually came back to a memory of when I was noticing that I was holding myself back and not being on my fullest potential. When I was thinking about these kind of how I was in relationships, and how I always kind of preferred their happiness before mine. I made sure that they were happy before I was happy. So because I got that memory, I was like, wait a minute, is there something in my pattern right now that might actually be that I still have this type of playing small mentality, holding myself back mentality? Is there any way where I actually still can be a little bit afraid of living out my fullest potential and living out what I want and believing fully in what I want? And I realized that that was it. I realized that I was actually still playing small in different ways. I was still, for instance, taking the creative projects that I wanted to do. I took it in the end of the day. After a full day of going to a work I didn't like, so I was tired. I was kind of, my energies were not really imbalanced and so forth. And in the end of the day, then I picked something up. I didn't do that in the beginning of the day. Or I was still in that kind of mindset of that my job is the one who is draining me, so I'm not able to do this, right? I have this kind of excuses in order for me to play small, in order for me to not live out my fullest potential and really act upon my dreams. When we start to see a pattern that we have for a very, very long time, it isn't always only in one area, and it isn't only in this layer. We unlayer and layer and layer and layer and find new situations where this happens. Because if this is a pattern which we have, and a habit which we have been doing since ages, sometimes we are not able to be that aware the first time we're getting aware with it, and so we can continue to do it, but it's a little bit more subtle. It's a little bit more, we don't see it that clearly, so to say. So that's why I'm saying that if you in one way or another notice that you're having this back and forth energy, that might actually be the case that you are at some point playing small. In one way or another in your life, you're playing small. So if you notice that yourself or people around you as well, because people around you reflect our own beliefs and reflect like where we are at. If you notice that you are at a job, for instance, and you say that, well, I have quite good days, and some days are not so good, but hey, that's the job. I mean, that doesn't all have that. Or you hear other people say that, or if you hear other people say the belief of that, like, yeah, everybody fights in their relationship, that's just like, that's normal. Why do we have to normalize that? Why is that normal? Probably because there are a lot of people on this earth who have had a lot of triggers, and that's two trigger persons going together, that's what's happening. But I'm here to tell you that you can actually have it so much more different. You can have it so much better. Because fast forwarding, as I said, what I was manifesting, today I am in a relationship where I feel it feels so weird when we are fighting. And many times, if we have some kind of, we don't even fight. It's not like those fights. We have more like a dialogue with each other. And when we have these kind of dialogues with each other, and we feel that okay, there's some kind of conflict, right? It feels weird. It feels weird to me because it's just not common. It's not common. It's not our normal. So it feels so weird. It feels so separated from our normal. I have it a really good relationship. I'm very blissful and I'm very blessed with my relationship. And this is something which I have manifested for myself. This is something that I have done a lot of layering in regards to my relationships, in regards to my patterns, in regards to my triggers and so forth. So nowadays I'm in a relationship where we are actually two adult people that are aware of our emotions. We are highly aware of what is happening from within. So when we have some certain type of conflict, we always turn from within and ask ourselves, okay, what is happening inside here now? And then we communicate that with each other, and then we're done with it. That was not the case from before, right? So there are possibilities, and I didn't know that those relationships existed. As I said, I didn't know that they existed for real. The same for the job that I have today. So I've been in all my jobs that I've been having, it always been like, yeah, I like this part, but it's also this part. But I guess that's kind of the way, like you don't like all parts of your job. Nowadays, when I feel that it's some type of discontentment or some type of frustration or something in regards to my job, it's actually not because of my job. It's mostly because I carry some certain type of distress from within. From before, it was my distress, plus it was that I was not in an environment, I was not on a job, I was not where I felt I fit in, I was not where I felt that here I can really reach my fullest potential, right? So you don't need to wake up every morning or 3 days in a week and then 2 days in a week feeling that it's a great job and then the three others not, and going back and forth. That is not the way that we have to experience life. We actually get to experience life differently. We actually get to experience life from a greater and happier and much more fulfilled state if we choose to. Okay, if we choose to. Yourself, your true self, your soul always want to feel expanded, always want to expand. So when you're playing small and holding yourself back, there is a certain of limit in the way how you feel, so to say. So in order for you to expand and in order for you to feel so much more better, then it's why we have to look into where in our lives are we playing small. So I want you to take 2 questions with you today, 2 questions which I want you to journal on in order for you to understand a little bit deeper. The first one is, where in my life am I playing small? How does that look like? Why am I playing small? Have I this habit of putting others first before me? Do I feel unsafe for being my true self in one way or another? Do I feel not accepted? Do I feel that I need to justify, and that is, I don't feel for that, so never mind, you know? Why and in what areas am I playing small? When I'm in this group setting, do I feel that I play small then because I don't feel that I can be my fullest self, right? Is there a certain type of environment that makes me feel unsafe or makes me feel in one way or another not able to express myself fully? Where in my life am I playing small right now? Why I want to say this right now is because I don't want you to go back in, I played small then and then, because as I said, I was unlayering and then I kind of thought that it was that. If I would have continued to go back to, oh, it's those kind of things, right? But that doesn't apply to me any longer because I have been growing through that. I don't have those type of relationships any longer. I've grown through that. So that's why I'm saying that right now, how are you in this now playing small? You don't need to go back, okay? Where in your current present life are you playing small? And the second question is there in any type of environment, any certain relationships, any certain type of job, any certain type of situation, when I feel in a certain type of way, is in a certain type of emotion? That one is important as well. where I feel that I settle, where I feel that I play small, and why do I do that? So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you want to dig deeper into holding yourself back, if you feel that you want some kind of guidance on the way for it, I do have a new coaching package called Struggle Free, where we talk about this as well. We go through what are your specific fears, or what are your specific habits, behaviors in regards to settling life and in regards to holding yourself back, so that you can't really feel that you are living out your fullest potential and being the radiant you that you're supposed to be, right? That you're meant to be on this earth. So you have the information in the description. Give it a comment, a like if you enjoy this type of video, if you want to see more of this topic. And I hope to see you next time. Take a good care of yourself. Keep on listening to you with Intox.